Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for standing by and welcome to the roundtable discussion on securing the digital transformation in financial sector presented by CrowdStrike in association with CIO Access. It will be an interactive discussion for 60 minutes, chaired and moderated by one of the highly respected cybersecurity enthusiasts around, Mr. Karthik Shinde, who is the presenter and leader for cybersecurity financial service at Ernst Young. We have Mr. Satbir Singh from CrowdStrike, who is the sales engineer manager for India and SARC at CrowdStrike. We have extremely talented set of cybersecurity leaders in this discussion like Mr. Siju Rao there, Chief Information and Technology Officer, Care Ratings Limited, Mr. Amya Sate, BP and Head, IT Security IFL Limited, Mr. Ninad Chavan, CISO, Edelweiss General Insurance Company Limited, Mr. Kiran Balsekar, CISO, Egan Life Insurance, Dr. Mukesh Mehta, CISO, BK Securities, Mr. Mohit Kalra, CISO, Oryx India, Mr. Anand Subramaniam, Regional Sales Manager, CrowdStrike, Mr. Siju Rao there. Sorry. During the entire course of discussion, if you face any uninterrupted disruption, please be patient. We will take the necessary steps to restore the service immediately. So now, without further delay, I would like to hand over the proceedings to Mr. Karthik Shinde to initiate the discussion after his opening note and context setting. Over to you, Mr. Shinde.
Hey, thank you very much. Thanks for the invite and really happy to be part of this esteemed panel. I'd like to open this session with a context that, while cyber security is in the news and on one hand have a huge set of digital disruption that we're seeing, particularly in the financial services sector. At the same time, there's no reduction in the amount of cybersecurity attacks or incidents that keep popping up. Whether it is a large bank, a foreign bank, or a public sector bank in India, no one is spared, right? And what is critical and important to see is that there's no distinction between big or small. There's no distinction between cloud or on-prem. It's one size fits all for everyone when it comes to being a victim of cyber attack. So I would like to open the panel and one very crucial question, which is on top of every CISO's mind, which is on top of every board member, is technology really the answer, or is technology really the silver bullet to giving a CISO his sound sleep that he or she deserves, right? And add to it, the buzzwords of AI, ML. Does it really give us the comfort? So my question is to CrowdStrike team, and if you can take up that and open the session, that'll be really good to set the context.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. Good afternoon, everyone. Definitely, tools and technology plays a very critical role when it comes to cybersecurity. And when we talk about these next generation technologies, one buzzword that often comes in our mind is AI and ML, right? And honestly speaking, what we have seen in the industries, it's been game changing. AI and ML has automated a lot of security workflows for us. It has increased the security efficiency for us when it comes to zero-day threats, especially, right? Prior to AI and ML, we used to run around signatures, used to run around IOCs. But now through these automations, it has not just reduced the amount of updates for us on a daily basis, but it has also helped a lot in workflows, in automations, where it looks into some behaviors and calls out few things and sometimes often take few actions, right? So It's been a big hit for the security practitioners, for the operational team as well, and for CIOs and CISOs as well. But it's not enough, because even after having that, we still see major events happening in the industry. Last year, by the end of last year, when we saw SolarWinds attack, it it was something where customers using next gen technology, they had next gen products, right? But when we talk about cybersecurity, tools, technology plays one critical role, and at the same time, we need to have rock solid processes. We need to have right skill sets, and we need to have all of it working together to ensure that we prevent ourselves against a breach. So it's a combination of, I would say, people, process, and technology that we have been talking over the years, and it's still very relevant today.
Thanks, Abir. And I think this question then flows to the to our panelists is what is for you, what is the most what are the most important pieces in the whole cybersecurity puzzle that you see are key and must-haves in a digital transformation? We can go in any order. Nad, Amay.
Okay. I would start
Hey,
first.
Shiju. Yeah.
Shiju starting?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. I thought.
Yeah. So Karthik, let me take it out. Good evening, everyone. I think it's very good to meet everyone, and I believe everyone is safe and at home. So take it up, Karthik, the question which you have asked. I think identification is one of the biggest key element out over here. So how do you identify the assets? When I talk about the assets, it can be on people, it can be on process, it can be on technology as well. So identification of the key assets within your people, within your process, within your technology. That's the first demarcation one should have, because what can go wrong if something go breached? So what can be the losses if something go wrong? So that's the identification one should have. I think that's the one thing. Design by itself, when we do, that's the second thing. So whatever we do, we need to think upon from the design perspective, because while we do anything on terms of digital transformation, it's not today. What happens is security comes at the last. It comes only to certify the go live. Ideally, it should be the first. Whenever we conceptualize anything, ideally the first phase, the security should come it up and say, okay, this is the technology stacks, what we are planning to build it up for the digital transformation. These are all the assets. These are all the consumers who will be going to consume it. This will be all the omni channels on which the consumers will be consuming the product. So I think the security has to play a vital role in designing the complete aspect of the digital transformations. Then only we'll see, and you can make someone responsible in terms of complete security gamut. Else, if you call up someone to do a penetration test or secure coding test at the last moment after developing the product and ask him to certify it, which is not a good single. So I think that's where we need to more come up in terms of processes. That's how we have to bring in more awareness, how the security can build it up on a stage wise. So I would say assets identification is one of the key element in terms of identifying when we build assets out over in the company. I would leave it to other panels also to take it up and can add more out over.
Spot on, Shiju. Yeah. Ninad,
I agree to Shiju sir's point, but the basic concepts of where we talk about people, process, and technology are something where we have to align now with we are literally virtual now. With every day we don't go to office, we don't connect, and the systems which are lying at some location have to be properly monitored, have to be reviewed, and business has to go on as usual. Business is not going to stop. They are innovating. Like for me in an insurance industry, we are seeing a hell lot of innovation in terms of AI ML. They want a motor insurance to be now AI driven, where is there a claim? They want to scan an image, and your claim, at least initial estimate, should be available. That's where they are working on. So my point over to say here is that proper change management process is an important process aspect. Technology wise, we need to know where our data is lying, what I need to protect, and do I have right tools, or I can optimize my existing tools to protect them. And on the people awareness, yes, they are my weakest link, because now they're sitting on it in their home network. I don't know what network they are connecting. We don't know what network they are using. And I need to protect my data, which is residing on their router. So that is a challenge that every CISO in this industry will face, to protect the data. And that is the basic that would always remain. Thank you.
Thanks, Nimrod. Amey, you want to go next?
Well, both of Shiju and Ninad's views are excellent, right? That is the need of the hour. And since last year, since the pandemic has started, the life has changed for everybody, right? Right from the frontline workers to the IT person or the back office staff, right? The back office staff, which used to work only on a desktop, now he's working out of a tablet or a laptop, right? So overall, now in the digital transformation, because of the business need, right, there has been drastic changes in terms of application availability, user accessibility, and all that. Here, while securing, what I see important part of the puzzle would be the continuous monitoring, detection, and response, where you will have visibility across all your platform from a centralized location. It is very difficult for people or organizations to implement that, right? But that is something which, as a security practitioner, we should be targeting it to achieve it. Unless you know what is happening within my corporate environment, be it on premise or on cloud, right? You will not be able to mitigate the attacks which are happening, nor you will be able to detect the attacks which are underlining in your defense systems, right? So low level attacks and APDs and all that. On top of it, so to achieve all this, I think the artificial intelligence, AI, and ML models need to be very fine-tuned. And probably the OEMs like CrowdStrike and others, right? They have to develop these AI ML models, because as a consumer and customer, they don't have, as Sadhvi said, right? There is a shortage of skill set within the industry. So organization may not have in-house expertise. They rely on the partners, vendors, right? Like ENY and others, to have the skillful resources to implement such things. And I think if we have support from the technology companies developing AI, ML model, and providing a platform which can do centralized monitoring and management of all these business transformation, right? Then I think we should be able in a better position to secure.
No, that's interesting, Amey, and that leads me to another relating question is all the points that we mentioned around identifying assets, which you touched upon, security by design. I think very crucial and an important aspect. Change management, protect the data. And you mentioned about the centralized view. I think it's very critical these days, although we have the SOCs of the world, but I think we need more granular control in that sense. But what's the panel's view on the adoption of these controls? Do you think there is a room? There's always room for improvement, but what's your view in terms of how organizations are taking these, and do you get adequate support from the management, and what's the general sense of how these controls fare?
So shall I go?
Yeah, please, Amey.
So I think from the support wise, from the management or the board perspective, right? Nowadays, what I see is board members are also into reading the news about the cyber attacks and all that, right? They also feel that, yeah, it is a time to invest in security, so that our name doesn't become a news tomorrow, right? So because
Okay.
of that, people have started, giving budgets to the organization to improve the security. I was lucky enough, my project was, all of my project were approved, right? And but the problem is the shortage of right technologies, right people to implement it. There is some human
Right.
limitation also. So, for example, if my board gives me approval for millions of dollars, right? But do I have enough team to implement that overnight, or do I have a product in market which can I can just pick and deploy it, right, and start getting the value out of it. So that is what I think is the thing. And
Right.
those organizations who are still reluctant in investing budgets into security, I'm sure they will start doing it once they are breached.
I think, Karthik, one point I would like to add out over here. I agree with Ameya. Before we jump to the next panelist, I think technology guys will have to change their visions, even including the security guys and the technology guys, because they have to talk more from business language perspective. See, today, why
Yeah.
we get shortage of the budget, the challenge is that we only talk technology in front of business, which they never understand. So unless we talk in their language and interpret what the loss could happen in case of, say, any breach in terms of the numbers. When you talk about the numbers, you will not have to worry about the budgets, or you will not have to worry about the investment. So I
Yeah.
think there we fail as a technology guys. And I keep telling, in fact, in my previous assignments, in current assignments to the team, to talk like a businessman. Well, unless you talk like a businessman, you will never be able to get convince someone what you want to talk about in terms of the technology investments or what you want to get out of it. Else we keep talking about AI, ML. So I'm seeing a lot of new buzzwords when keep talking about. They will all say, no, no, they have implemented it, so that's why we are implementing. That's not the case. So
True.
unless we talk very much crispy in terms of numbers, you will get. So that's the one learning what I had from my experience, and the success what I've seen in my all discussions with the management. You will be very easy to make them convince.
So true. So true, Shiju. Thanks for that point. I think that's a key point. Ninad, any views on, you know, have these controls? Hi, Mohit. Hey, sorry, I could see only 4 people on the screen. Sorry to have missed you out.
Okay. No issues, Karthik. Yeah. So mine is also on the same side because we all are working from home now. So uh, we just have to tell the management for most of the tools that yes, if you are working from home, we are not secure. If, for example, the antivirus, if we are not taking updates over the cloud, if our patches are not getting installed over the cloud, then it's a vulnerable thing, and there's no security out there. Secondly, the awareness piece. We are mainly focusing on the awareness piece so that the phishing attempts, whatever are coming to the users, are not materialized. So that are the 2 or 3 points. First, the basic hygiene, like all the antivirus systems should be upgraded, should have the latest definition over the cloud. Second thing, the security patches, application patches should happen over the cloud. Second, and the third thing is awareness piece, because whatever technical controls we have, if person is clicking on any of the emails which is coming or a spam coming over it, then it's of no use. So there are 3-4 things, because for example, Microsoft is providing the phishing parameters in E3 license or E5, but which is very costly. So
Right.
it's up to the user only who will actually do some kind of mindset of from the security aware mind, which he will not click on any other link. Secondly, the antivirus piece, like it's the virus definitions are old thing now. So the if I talk about the CrowdStrike or the others who works mainly on the anomaly piece or the behavior piece, they are more useful items nowadays. So only signature update is not required. So antivirus should be a mix of both. behavior as well as the signature.
No, point taken, Mohit. Absolutely. Thanks for your inputs. I see Mukesh has also joined in. Mukesh, if you can hear me, I don't know when you joined, or sorry, my screen had a limited set of participants being visible. Now everyone is visible to me. Sorry, you're on mute, Mukesh. Mukesh, you're on mute. Yes. Sure, no problem. All right. No, I think all valid points. And in terms of Mohit, what you just said on the AV, and there's this famous one-liner that keeps going around: AV is dead, right? That just kind of sets the tone of, while on one hand we see increased number of attacks, increased number of advanced attacks happening on systems, people, and the likes. People taking process level gaps, have a good understanding of how a banking process works, how a loan origination system works, and exploiting some of the weaknesses in that, combine it with the latest and greatest cyber attacks, and then perpetrate a cyber fraud. Now, which kind of takes us to the next question in terms of with all of these things happening, and I'm sure some of you would have experienced some form or the other incident in your respective organizations. What's your view on tackling some of these? I know some of you have into advanced solutions like CrowdStrike, but would love to hear your views in terms of how easy, difficult do you find it today? Because I personally have investigated a number of cyber frauds, and I know the pain points which some of the top banks in the country have today, and they face challenges as well, despite of having a state-of-the-art SOC and all the fancy EDRs in place, but they still find it challenging. So wanted to hear your views in terms of what is that one thing that you find challenging, and what do you think if you had the wherewithal to go in for not a piece of technology, but a piece that you would like to fit into your organization that will give you greater visibility. And as Amaya said, he wants to have that centralized view, that one click view of what's happening in my organization. So would love to hear your views on that. Sorry, slightly a long drawn question, but I hope I was able to put it across. Mukesh, you want to go on that one first? Sorry, since we didn't.
There is a saying that they keep on thinking what next, and we keep on thinking what was our last. So the hackers and other people, they will just keep on thinking what is the next, what the next they will do. And while us, people like CIOs and people like us will keep on thinking what we had done the last day, yesterday, or the last upgrade, last update, or last new product, irrespective of the brand or the logo. So the challenge with everybody in the forum and out of the forum is that what we are doing and what we should do. And my funda is, I do it in a different way, is that I keep on experimenting a bit. So we have everybody have a EDR or XDR or all the whatever brand name you take it, whether it's a CrowdStrike or the XVZ brand. So yeah. The thing is that I would suggest, and what I'm doing right now also is having a 2-3 brands in my arena. So I keep on playing with the these products. So I have 2 firewalls also, 2 different zones, and 2 different firewalls, and 3 different products. So one of my product which has been subscribing from last 3 years is expiring. The renewal is due in September. So what I'm doing is that in last 3 months and next 2 months, I'm doing a lot of POCs, lot of things. So I have, of course, work from home is there, but this week onwards we are back to office. So what we are doing is that we are experimenting and we are trying what is right fit, and not getting engaged for the long term plans, like any product, whether it is any product irrespective of the brand. Let's have it for 6 months or 1 year subscription, because everything is subscription based. Let's not get into the more than a year subscription, so that you always have a competitor doing the whether all the from all the anti AVs or XDRs or all these products. The competitor is also doing some new innovation, so you get innovations in your control, in your premises. So that is what I had learned, and I'm experimenting right now. So my funda is what they can do next. Can we even think of that? I know we cannot, trust me. It's a candid view, but at least experiment or something with the new products. So you have one product which is in your premises and entire thing, and another product which is your core, your SOC team or the IT team, which they keep on playing, and then you add a couple of business users and all those things. So I have a 500 plus license of a core product and 50 plus license of two other products. So that is what I keep doing in the last 6 months. Can we do something different? But the problem is that the hackers and all those people, they are always thinking what next. We don't think what next actually.
True. And I think, yeah, Mohit, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, so just adding to the Mukesh and Ameya, actually the one thing actually that they are saying is about the latest technology and the how to deploy the money. For example, if we have the budget, so outsourcing the SOC is actually a better choice. If you talk about Mukesh query as well, or the Mukesh view as well, because on that side we will always have the latest front, and we can keep on improving. We can change the tools as well. It's just the logs that we are giving to the SOC, and they are doing all the monitoring with the best tools plus the best possible minds, because we cannot hire an engineer who is so good at one technology, and second year we'll just change the technology. So the same level of L4 or L5 guy we will never get. So it's always better to outsource some of the things which are keeps on changing, where more and more expertise are required on a 6-month basis or yearly basis. So outsourcing the SOC is a very good option, and every year we can actually change the way we look onto our infra. Plus it's always say that our team it's taking work from a vendor or from a partner is slightly easy, and we can actually have more control because they innovate, because there's a billing going on. But with your in-house SOC, it is somewhat becomes difficult to actually deal with the people side or changing technology side. So
no, absolutely, Mohit. I think that's a good perspective, but yeah, let's hear out.
Wait, that is the actually my funda is that you cannot have a skill development or skilled people in your team which knows everything. So if you have a different two products, then you keep on chasing the vendor or the partner. This is what I'm having. How can I improve? So if that partner or vendor gives you a good suggestion, so can you implement that to your existing product? That is why you should have two products in your team. The problem with I'm a strong believer of on premises knock and SOC, and I still have entire thing in my premises, and we had developed a lot of things on in-house developed also. So my problem with these outsourcing of SOC or NOC is that do those people ensure that you have a proper skilled people there? In the problem with these vendors, these partners with all data centers or any such third-party vendors who are doing the outsource, who are taking care of outsourcing, they also put typical L1, L2 resource for your managing. So they don't have L3, L4 people on the day one, rather than you have a good, decent, or senior manager or manager level guy who's a pure hands-on. So that makes, for my, I work like this way. Being in a broking industry, being in a financial market, I still have complete thing on premises. I'm still in discussion with 2, 3 DC, but still I always believe that let's have it in house. Let's try to skill people. Only problem which I feel is the retention of the people. Every 6 months, you have 1 or 2 exit from the manager level. So that is the challenge in being in house. That is the advantage of SOC outsourcing. But do they guarantee? Do they guarantee that they will be having a proper L3, L4 guys? Because many times these guys, they automate so much things that they start missing the alerts mails also. I had a serious examples which I had observed. So at least if you have your own people, you can shout them, you can do anything. Because how can you miss? But many times it is difficult for these outsourcing people to yell or get out your this thing actually.
True, Mukesh. Yeah, raise his hand, and I think we have Yogesh and Kiran who've joined us as well. Welcome, guys, and I think it's Suresh as well.
Shall I go ahead?
Yeah.
So my views are hybrid from Mohit and Mukesh, right? I think certainly when you talk about cost optimization and all that things, MSSP can be a good option when you're looking at SOC services. But at the same time, I agree with Mukesh that your in-house skill set also should be very strong. So for example, if you have 24/7 monitoring from a vendor, you should have a L3, L4 resource who is controlling and owning that entire SOC, right? Who is very hands-on and can do technical investigation by himself, right? Diving down into incident, maybe utilizing the CrowdStrike RTR to look into the endpoint or server, right? To investigate forensically. Because what I believe is for alerting and keeping a continuous watch, your partner can certainly help out. But understanding your business, understanding your internal infrastructure, availability, dependencies, ownerships, and all that, that only a in-house person can drive it. And even there are some incidents where you need follow-up and coordination with various other teams internally, right? In that case, I think internal employee on payroll employee makes sense to me.
Absolutely. I would just like to welcome Yogesh, Kiran, Rohit, Suresh. Hi, sorry we missed you guys, but welcome to the discussions. And what you pretty much the discussion is going, right? But the whole point that we were discussing on is the next gen level of attacks, what organizations are doing from a controls perspective, are they adequate enough or not, and then I'll move on to some other points so that we can have more in-depth conversations. Kiran, Yogesh, Rohit, Suresh, I'll invite you to put in your excellent conversations with the other panel members. But if you look at some of the latest attacks, and I'm going a bit technical here, and we've all heard about fileless malware and non malware based techniques, primarily if you look at PowerShell based attacks. And whenever we do a red team adversary simulation, we usually use some of these techniques, which are primarily used to bypass certain AVs and restrictions that are on the endpoint. So taking a cue from that, one, how, in your view, do we deal with this problem? And all of this comes pre-built, in Windows. So you have a locked house with the keys under the table, under the mat, right? So that kind of scenario. So how do you? What's your view on that? And secondly is, in terms of detecting some of these advanced attacks, advanced lateral movement, techniques, and how do you see, with various controls that are available in the market today vis-a-vis what you have within your organization? Would love to know your views on this topic and point.
So one thing, Karthik, am I audible, Karthik?
Yeah, absolutely, Kiran. Go ahead.
Yeah. So one thing which we also looked at during the pandemic last year, how do we did an assessment of the whole SOC, and one thing which we identified, we need to have a right KPIs for the SOC. So which was one of the most important while the SOC is the managed security services normally works managed SOC perspective, but we need to, as an organization, we need to have right KPIs. So that was one of the most important aspects which we got. Then the efficacy or the maturedness also started while building the more and more use cases which were started because they were the set of use cases which were prior pandemic, which was standard in nature, but the pandemic has really brought in some additional use cases. So how we are maturing our use cases as well. So I think that was the another aspects which we got into it. So I think these were the two things which critically made us to take the same solutions, same services into a next level.
Oh, that's absolutely good to know, Kiran. Thanks for inputs. Yogesh?
Yeah, so as Kiran was saying, sorry for the background noise. There's somebody at the door, so
No
I got
problem.
my security, which is my dogs are back. So basically, like as Kiran was saying, pandemic made us understand or made us unlearn saying that we knew everything and we are secure. Because of pandemic and all this work from home, we were not prepared for anything, and we had to almost all the organizations. I'm not talking about myself or anybody else. Almost all the organizations were running around to get the work from home options enabled for everyone, and which gave a lot of loopholes or like potholes. What is there, and we are still learning and trying to cover those up and ensure we have a smooth path. Meanwhile, we're protecting ourselves. This is an ongoing journey, even though I am not directly into the CISO or SOC, but as part of my applications, I keep interacting with them for the security part of it. I'm from a fintech organization, so basically
Right.
some of our applications are also PCI DSS, which has to be PCI DSS plus this. We take all this into single bucket and keep our priority on the security part of it.
Right. The Shiju, Ame, any views on some of the incidents that I mentioned, the techniques and procedures, and how do you deal with that? And do you think that's the best way? Any thoughts?
So I can share my experience, right? When we were on signature-based AVs, right? So detecting, you mentioned fileless malware. That is a very interesting set, or even coin miners, right? You actually there is no symptoms which it shows on your system that your machine has been compromised or it has been consumed for mining the bitcoins, right? So for such scenarios, I think the AI, ML, and the graph data, which CrowdStrike also has, right? That provides really a granular visibility. So when I have done some personal investigations also, and in that scenario, you need to do a lot of internal tools and this and that to identify exactly what is originating or what is creating this malicious traffic, which you see at some of your controls at perimeter or different levels, right? So that is very difficult with the traditional tools. So your tools also should mature. So with the graph data and all that thing, when the process is kicked up, you have all the telemetry data which can be mapped to form a view that what was executed, how that fileless malware started, what script was executed, right? That is something we should have more such graph database tools and technology to look at data. Now, for endpoint we have, but from network perspective, perimeter perspective also, that is very much required, right? That is my view.
No, absolutely.
I think, Karthik, I'll add some point from all the panelists what has spoken about. I think it's more the question your relates to more from visibility perspective. So how do we get a visibility in the complete organizational level? I think I'll go back to my first answer, which I have spoken. It's more from the asset. So how do you
Assets.
collaborate it actually? So that's the it comes
Yeah.
to, because today when we talk about security, we always talk about endpoint security or perimeter security. So we end up over there. We end up the conversation out over there by saying we have much of robust technologies in the solutions. We have much of better platforms in place, but definitely this is not the end. We may have to look upon from different angle altogether. When I talk about design, what are we building? The blocks. That's the first things. What sort of logs it generates? What sort of transactions we are going to do it? Who is the consumer? Who is the user? I think from there all put together, we have to put the security in stacks. Second, how do we monitor each and every steps? Say the transaction start happen from which omni channel. So we will have to start from there. How do we visualize it? So today we may have say 100 of solutions in place, and all the solutions are best in the market. I would not say one of the solution is the only best. Every solution undergo through a various sort of engineering, various sort of R&Ds. I'm sure everyone put up their efforts to build the solutions. It's only the usage, how it's convenience to the users, then only it becomes a premium product. Otherwise, every product will have the same features, every product will have the same sort of. But the challenge today is that as a user industry community, when I want to see a single dashboard, how does it look to me rather than going to a 10 different dashboards? So that's the one key aspect of the visibility. So we spoke about SOG and everything, but I'm sure the logs which get generated from all the next gen sort of solutions are much more meaningful. But have we ever checked the applications what we use today? Does it generate enough logs to give it to a meaningful output to the visibility? Those are the questions I think which you should ask internally within the systems and design those applications from very scratch and thoughtful to the visibility perspective. That's how the visibility comes in. And I'm sure this visibility is not should be limited to only to the CISOs or CIOs. It should also go to the business teams because they are all equally responsible for using the technologies and making the mistakes. So most of the breaches, if you ask me today, happens at the because of one or other mistakes on the business side. It's not from the technology sides. And technology cannot do 100% visibility in terms of monitoring because end of the day, there are lakhs of channels from where the users access it. There are lakhs of applications which users gets and consumed by themselves, which technology never comes to know also. So I think that's how the ecosystem should come, and visibility should be equal from top to down, bottom approach. That's how the security as a practice we can build it up in the organization, can make it more success.
No, thanks, Shiju. And I think just being conscious of time, CrowdStrike team into the panel and probably pose this question to them. Is that from solutions perspective, I think you heard everyone, in the session, and I think very pertinent points, whether it is, security by design or, what are the most critical, crucial components from a response perspective, from, a detection perspective. So what's your view, Sadhbir, Anand, in terms of, what the solutions today provide? What's the roadmap like, if you may? There's something for us in store for the future, or future attacks? So if you could throw some light on that, I think that'll be great for all of us.
Yeah, sure. So we had few very interesting points that came up during the discussions, like the main source of what we need to protect is the assets. That's the place where the entire game of cybersecurity happens with respect to attack. Attacker is not interested in just coming to a firewall or to a IPS and just sit uh, in the network. They're interested more to come to the asset, get to the crown jewels of the data. That is something which is of great importance to them, right? And when you look at attackers' mentality, right, this is a good point that Mukesh brought in, which is what next, right? That's what attackers are thinking, and in most of the cases, the security practitioners thinks, what happened the last. Right? Now, in cybersecurity, we often come across situations where we first of all don't know what an attacker may do. So we need to have a good strategy around taking care of these scenarios. Of if something happens, how do we take care of it? First of all, what's most critical in this is to understand that this has happened. And this is where the point that Sheju has come up with of visibility comes into perspective. Right? We need to first of all have an visibility that something is happening in the environment. Once we have that visibility, then we can act on it. Right? Now, in this ever-changing world with the new ways of compromising systems, the new techniques that attackers make use of, it would never always be possible to have automations around it, right? But to get a visibility, we need to have some platform, some tool, some technology which can capture the important information, the right information that can let us know what's happening and then allows us to take some actions. What CrowdStrike has done here is CrowdStrike has built up a graph database. Now it's different than a traditional relational databases because it doesn't have a schema, which helps us to capture anything without having a predefined set of architecture around that. Now, once we capture that data, we build up logics around that. And that helps us to understand, oh, these are new ways that attacker can actually use a new technique, which is not yet open in the world. Nobody knows about that. And that then gets feed into our systems, our tools, our technologies, and then brings the data back to you, right? And this is where the automation helps a lot. The AI, the MLs, the next gen technologies that we have. And we use this for prioritization of these activities to put it onto the top so it does not get missed in noise. Mukesh put up a good point that we need a skilled people, but often we also see that there have been instances when people in fact miss out on the emails, right? So how do we ensure that if such an occurrence happens and a tool is showcasing that to us, we act on that, we don't miss that, right? So CrowdStrike has built up a complete AI ML around it, which prioritizes this thing. But on top of that, we also have skills of a solid threat hunting team, which constantly analyzes the forensics, the visibility that comes out of the systems to see, is there something which an attacker is doing, which automations, the next gen technologies are not able to pick up, right? These are people who deal with nation states, state-sponsored attacks, e-crime attacks, and on a daily basis, when they look into it, they see the changing styles, they develop a lot of patterns, they see a lot of unknowns of the world. We get a lot of feedback of it from our incident response investigations that we also do. And if we see any potential attack activity which happens in customer environment at a very early stage, we ensure that customer is aware of it, because that's the most important thing. Customer should be aware, then only he can take action. So we do two things. First of all, we prioritize that and we lit it like a Christmas tree on our console, right? So that gives us higher chances that yes, an analyst will look at it and will take action. Second, our threat hunting team also sends an email immediately to the operations team. And they have a very tight SLAs around it that with the escalation chain where we demand acknowledgement, right? That's how we come to know they're acting on it, right? So we keep going up in the chain, start shooting emails and ensure that they are well aware of what's happening in an environment and come around and analyze these things to take right actions in right time, because speed is the key. And CrowdStrike it deals in majority of large scale breaches across the world, where we also do IR investigations. We have seen that nation state threat actors are very fast. When we talk about Chinese nation state threat actors, they typically take 4 hours to start spreading in an environment. When we talk about Russians, they take around 19 minutes, 1-9. So our tools, our technologies should be faster than that to give us the visibility so we can take action. So otherwise, if you look at the current situation of pandemic, as the thing spreads, right, the situation becomes much more complicated. Then you quarantine a lot of stuff, and then you bring things slowly back to normal. So I would say speed is a key essence here, and this is where CrowdStrike excels by delivering you a native solution that can provide you that visibility in a matter of seconds and battle out with the threat actors, irrespective of how sophisticated they are. Either these are e-crime or people funded by and state-sponsored attacks as well.
Excellent. Thanks, Sadhbir. I think that kind of also gives us a good view of where some of the next gen technologies are useful in terms of addressing some of the recent very pertinent challenges around specifically around response time, and time to actually realize that an incident has taken place in the organization, because that's also the lead time that's lost 90% of the time when even we are called on to respond to an incident, for example. The next question I would like to pose is a little different but related, and that's the most used and abused word in the industry, like AIML, is threat intelligence, right? And and people have different viewpoints, but do we really feel that threat intelligence, and maybe some of you have been using it for some time, do you feel it's an important component of your overall security ecosystem, security strategy? And would love to hear your views. I think we have limited time. We are already at 5. So before I ask this question and put this through to you, I would just like to ask Rudrajit and Jitendra if we have time.
Sure, sir. Please go ahead.
Yep. So this final question is to the panelists. Anyone who would like to take a shot at it?
So let me start with, I think it's a very good point. It's very important. Threat intelligence plays a vital role. So in a financial segment, we call as an early warning signal. What does that mean? If any of the financial organization behavioral is changing over the period of time, so that's how we keep them as in monitoring. So that's how over here as well, is compared to the security, we keep monitoring what the sort of the threats are emerging in the industries or in the globe. I think it helps to proactively act on that and make yourself more protective. So definitely it helps us. But nowadays, the system which has come, the CrowdStrike and all, everything comes with their own platforms, which is much more intelligence and built. So that's how we are able to depend much more on their platforms rather than getting and subscribing a dedicated threat intelligence platform. But definitely it will help to industries. It helps to industry, and every CISOs or CIOs or any of the technology guys make use of it, because it's a news. It's more proactive news, which will help you to prevent from anything.
Right. Maybe you'll just take one final view, head to closing the session. So, anyone from a threat intelligence perspective would like to put in their views?
So my belief is threat intelligence is very critical. It helps you strategize your prevention mechanisms, right? When you see a similar industry member got attacked, right, and you have that intel with you, you can be prepared for your organization by tuning up your defense system so that it can prevent that, right? So I think it is a very crucial thing. Organizations should subscribe to the threat intelligence way, and they should act upon. Only collecting feed doesn't solve the problem.
I think Karthik, that is getting absorbed in now healthcare as well. So if you ask me today, even on the COVID, nowadays the different mutants, what is getting captured in different global part of the world is coming to know, and the vaccinations are getting built up on that. So now Delta Plus, which is a new mutant which has come in UK. So the healthcare workers are now working on in terms of identifying which all steroids can work against that. So it's more threat intelligence. I'm saying they are making use of the same technology in terms of saving the mankind. So it's
no, absolutely, Shiju. And we find applications of the traditional threat intelligence now in the cyber world, and people starting to realize and utilize it. But thanks a lot, for your time, everyone. And Sadbir, would you want to, kind of say some of the closing remarks, and then probably I'll spend a minute and then we can close the session.
Yeah, sure. I think what Amya said in the beginning of our discussion was that we need to have a central view around security. And that's one key, because that simplifies a lot of stuff, right? Nobody wants to look into multiple consoles. And even the point that we spoke as a last discussion point today, which was threat intelligence, it should also be on that same console. It should work as a cohesive force along with our other technologies to help to clear out the picture, to enrich the picture, and give us the complete perspective of where the security is going. Is there something which is about to happen in my environment, right? Rather than being reactive, to go to much more, not, I won't just say proactive, but predictive state of what may happen next, right? And intelligence, something which is a key component. If you look at even CERT India, and there are so many other feeds which comes to BFSI segment, right? CrowdStrike also have a very solid threat intelligence, and that's one of the first things that we started up the company with in 2011. We profile threat actors. We do not just look at it from a tactical perspective, which is picking up the IOCs, bad IP, bad hash, bad domains. It's also a very strategic intelligence, where we profile threat actors, we look into their next moves, we help businesses, banks make their next strategic calls and decisions of what to do next, what are new avenues they need to take. So as Seju put up a point that we need to not just talk about the technology language, we need to talk in a business language, right? Intel helps to talk in that business language and help business to grow by taking right strategic decisions moving forward.
Well, I think summarized well, Sadbir. I was going to touch upon all of these points, and I think you summarized it really well. I had a lot of key takeaways from this session. I think some of the points were reinforced in terms of some of the pain points that industries face. I'm going to do an outreach to some of my clients. Maybe I'll connect with you offline. And Sadbir, you definitely I'm going to connect back with, because I would love to know more about the platform and what it can do. Maybe it helps me in my investigations that I do at my clients. So very helpful session, and thank you very much. And I really appreciate your time today. I think very insightful session. I enjoyed it. And thank you very much for your time, everyone. And thanks,
Thank you, everyone.
Sabir, Anand. Thank you very much.
Sure,
Thanks.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
With that said, it's at the end of the discussion. It was a fantastic session, I must say. We at CIO Access would like to thank you all for joining in and make this virtual roundtable session extremely interactive and meaningful. Thank you again, all of you. Stay safe, stay indoors.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Bye-bye.